Everything you know about Star Wars is wrong. In this episode, we're talking Star Wars bloodlines, family lineages, and how there is none in Star Wars. There's a lot of talk about how, we need more characters that are nobodies. You would have preferred if Rey was a nobody amidst talks of her possibly being a Rey Kenobi or a Rey Skywalker. And, well, Choco, what's the problem with that sentiment?
Yeah, like 99.9% of the Jedi Order are nobodies. Well, I know, Luke says the Force is strong in my family, and he's right. And it's probably because Anakin was a virgin in the Force. But who wasn't Force sensitive? His mom. Yeah. So even in that, you almost can't truly say it's a legacy if you think about it, because I feel like you need more generations for that, right?
I think so. I think by the time of the sequel trilogy, when we get Ben Solo, we can establish generational power or generational connection to the Force, right? Because Ben is from Leia. But other than that, that's the only canon family we have of generational, inherited power. Palpatine's parents weren't anyone special. Mace Windu is Mace Windu. We don't know of Yoda's provenance. We don't know Qui-Gon's, Obi-Wan's. For all intents and purposes, everybody in the Jedi Order besides... No, that's it. Everybody in the Jedi Order were all the first of their families, really. So...
Yeah, I mean, for instance, one that we do know for a certainty is Ahsoka, as well as Count Dooku. We got to know both of their families and them being the only Force sensitive ones, and it's I mean, I don't think it adds anything, but you even look at Rey, Palpatine's granddaughter. Not really. Her father was not Force sensitive and was not his son. It was a straight. So you can't even really say that that's hereditary.
Yeah.
So I've always likened it more to a mutation that can happen under certain circumstances, right? Because we do have cases like Tiplar and Tipley, right? People who are related who are both Force sensitive. But even then, it's often not to the same degree or not at all. So if I think about it like a mutation, that means that under the proper circumstances, it can appear in anyone. But it can be more likely coming from specific people, but not always.
Yeah, and typically it's always come down to a certain alien species that is more likely than not to be Force sensitive. Togrutans are very highly Force sensitive. We have Jorah Mali, we have Shaak Ti, we have Ahsoka, but none of them are related in terms of filial connection. There's a lot of Mary Allens that are Force sensitive. None of them are family. Vernestra's not connected to Barriss. And even if we go into the EU, it's largely very special, in the cases of someone like an Anakin figure. Revan to Bastila, Bastila to Tasil, and Tasil to Satil. But otherwise, there's not really huge lines and family trees of tremendous
Revan
following.
had Vaynor,
Theron Shan.
Satil had Theron. In the expanded universe, we did have Corran Horn, right, who was related, like up to his grandfather, I want to say, and then he had 2 kids.
We like to say that force sensitivity is highly likely if someone in your family that precedes you was, but it doesn't preclude power, right? Like we just mentioned, Satil Shan was the Grand Master, and Theron didn't have any. And then in the case of Ben
Palpatine
Solo,
was so powerful
was.
that he owns everyone.
Yeah.
His parents didn't have it.
So, I mean, I think for the most part, this video is about misconceptions of the Force being largely lineage-based, largely bloodlines. For the very fact that the stories we've had has largely revolved around the Skywalker family, we can establish that they do have a bloodline. But everyone else is a nobody. I mean, Anakin was
Yoda species is 100% force sensitive, right?
Of what we know, yes. Grogu.
Yeah.
Yaddle.
So I always like to make that clarification, because people will say that, yes, they're all force sensitive. You're like, all of the ones we have seen have been force sensitive, but that's not to say all of them are. That doesn't mean we can't run into one of them that isn't. And if one of them wasn't, we would never have the context to run into them. So we wouldn't know. So know what you know, and also know what you don't know.
Yeah.